Emily Barnard, Chef Recovery, and
Ashley
Bocage, my little sweet pea. We're out here. Where are we?
We're at the boat launch.
We're at the boat launch in Keewatin. So that is, look at that. Beautiful lake is still somewhat frozen. But spring is on its way. I see seagulls all over the place.
Yeah.
So today we wanted to talk about shifting your mindset with people, places, and things. Ooh.
Dun, dun, dun. That's a good one.
It is a really good one. But here's the question I have for you. So when you think about shifting the mindset of people, places, and things, which one is the most important to shift in the people, places, and things, or are they all equally important?
I think they're all equally important, but I think the one that I struggled with most was people. Having to shift my thinking to what I thought I could have people in my life at that time when I really to keep going with my recovery. I couldn't have those people in my life. And that was a very, very hard thing for me to accept and to be able to do. It took some time and I struggled with it, but I understand the importance of it.
So when you say it took you some time, so were those people supporting you in your recovery in the aspect of saying, they're in your corner, yay Ashley, we know that you're getting clean and sober, we're not going to drink and use around you, we're not going to text you and say, hey, do you want to come and smoke crack tonight, or hey Ashley, how you doing, there's a party going on and bring over a 60 ounce, or hey Ashley, guess what, we're heading out to the bar tonight, we want you to come shake your booty. It's good for us to hear from somebody that's in early recovery versus a couple more days in Ashley recovery as to what it was like for you. So were the people that you were around before you started your recovery in support of you getting clean and sober?
Yes and no. People were, as we're excited for me to get clean and sober and saying that they'll have your back and they'll be there for you. But
I don't know. I just see a sexy Chevy in the back. That's all. I don't know.
But for those people, it was a lot of, they were also an active addiction, right? So they didn't understand the fact that once you get clean and sober, you can't use anymore. Thinking and maybe they had the best intentions of being in my corner and being there for me, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work like that for me anyways. I can't be around, people using. That's too much for me, and that's not okay.
So that would be a trigger then?
That would be a huge trigger.
Okay,
trigger.
So the trigger would turn into the relapse, which is a series of events if you allowed yourself to be around other people that can use and can drink, and because people can drink and people can use, that's perfectly normal. Just so happens Ashley and I can't, and there's some other people out there in the world that are in the same boat we are. So it would trigger you if you were to. So here's the thing. So I'm your friend calling you up. Hey Ashley, how you doing today? Da 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 da. We're just heading out on the lake, head to Scotty's Island. Just wondering, you want to come along? Can you grab a 6-pack?
A 6-pack of iced tea, maybe, but not. I haven't been in a liquor store in years. I don't go anywhere near. It's just, I know for myself it wouldn't be okay. I know that it could trigger me. I know I would probably run into people that I used to know, and it's just not something that I'm willing to do, put myself at risk in my recovery, because I know where it'll lead me. So and it might not, but I don't want to take that chance.
So essentially what you're doing is you're safeguarding your recovery for what your recovery is for you. That's and right. If you were to subject yourself to people that were using or in still active addiction, that would trigger you, and that could possibly send you in a whirlwind of a series of events that would then end up in, the end, you picking up possibly,
yeah. And I'm not willing to do that. I'm not there yet to be able to even go to barbecues and stuff like that, or go not right now because of COVID, but I mean even those kind of social events. I know myself well enough that I know I'm not there yet.
So actually this is a good time. Ashley and I were probably together for about, 7-8 months when you got invited to that wedding, and I had just said to you, I suggest, you think about this one, because there is going to be people there that are drinking, and people are allowed to drink at a wedding, and it's probably not a dry wedding, so you might want to think about if this is the right thing for you to do, and you got to take care of your recovery. So what was the process with so your first event that you got invited to, really, it was friends and family, so maybe there's a piece of you that felt guilty that you weren't going, but you knew that you had to take care of your recovery in order to still have those people in your life, because if you didn't, you wouldn't. And also, I think, for me, I think, the process that you had went through, because your daughter was with us too at the time, so your daughter to see that and hear that and see that, that was a lot of growth for me to see in you, because, most people would have just went to the wedding and, might have done something they shouldn't have done because they thought that their recovery was stronger or not stronger. So what was the process with all that, like all the emotions that came behind, somebody asking you to go to a wedding? So that's the people. The things are the wedding, right? So,
so,
and then the place would be the wedding also.
Right. So it was more or less like when at first I was right. I'm like, yes, I'm going. I'm so excited to see everybody. And it was more of the aspect of I wanted people to see me in a different light, right? And so, but as Jay, was talking to me and suggesting and stuff, I kind of sat back and I'm like, okay, Ashley, let's think this through, right? So I actually stopped and paused and I played the tape forward. Well, it's super important that that you do that. You take that minute instead of having that impulse, right? Because a lot of addicts and alcoholics, we're very impulsive and we want everything and we wanted it yesterday. So we don't think of everything that comes with the decisions we make. But I was able to do that. So I was able to say, okay, if I go to this wedding, there is going to be drinking. There's going to be lots of people I know. It's going to be a big party. It's going to be a great time. There's going to be laughs and so on and so forth. But I don't drink anymore. So I had to think about how that was going to affect me and what could potentially happen if I put myself in that situation when I was in such young recovery. And still to this day, I don't think I would go yet. I'm not quite there yet. And I might not ever be. And I have to.
Well, it might be different if we both went, because we were both, we both are clean and sober. So
absolutely.
It might be different.
I'm not there yet.
By yourself.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
So, you really touched on some serious points there that I want to point out, right? So the impulsive thinking, right? So actually impulsive thinking actually drives you to false beliefs, because all of a sudden your impulsive thinking honestly will tell you that you're okay to go to this, even if you don't want to, even if you think you're strong enough, and even if you think you got enough willpower. But some of us have reservations in the back of our mind that we can use someday, and some of us can get clean and sober for a few years, and some of us can go out and have a couple drinks and then whatever. That's that. I don't judge anybody, nor does Ashley.
Nope.
However you get your recovery is your recovery. It just so happens with the recovery couple, we are completely abstinent from all drugs and alcohol. That's how we get a life worth living today. But there's many ways to put your foot in the shoe, or how does that go? Skin a cat? No, not skin a cat.
No.
Anyways, I think you know what I'm trying to say. So I think that's a really important one, is the impulsive thinking that goes behind it, because your brain actually starts playing games on you, right? And then the guilty side of the world comes into you, and then also the me part. So I want to show everybody that I am clean and sober, so I am strong enough. And then I don't really realize, maybe I'm okay from 2:00 in the afternoon when the wedding's going on. It's like the ceremony and all that stuff, and then things are kind of okay, and then I'm okay, at dinner. But then maybe there's wine at the table and I start seeing people drink, and then so I start getting a little nervous, and then all of a sudden maybe now it's dinner's over and people are starting to tie into it because that's what people do, and it's okay that people do that, and now all of a sudden I'm getting triggered big time, and I'm wondering why the stinking thinking inside my mind is starting to beat me up and telling me, just have one drink, have one drink, have one more. Have one more, and then truth be told, 1,000, one is too many and 1,000 is never enough. So
true story.
So that was a really good thing to point out about the impulsive thinking. Also, the other really good thing to point out was the processing of it all, right? So stop, play the tape through. Don't just play the beginning of the tape, miss the middle, and forget about the ending. Because
I wanted to do that. I definitely wanted to do that. I wanted it
How
to
many
be
don't?
Okay.
I do too. I just want to play the beginning and forget about the middle and the end. I just want to go have a good time too.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. You can have just as much fun in recovery without drugs and alcohol as you can with drugs and alcohol. So those two things are like, those are really important things. I'm glad that you brought those up. So for myself, I was always with women and dated women over the course of the last, till I met Ashley. I was only with one other girl in recovery, and that was early recovery. So I was 4, 5, 6 months, something like that. It didn't work out, and at the end of the day, I didn't want to be with somebody that was like me, because then they would be able to know me too well. And I as an addict and alcoholic, I don't want anybody to know me. I don't want to, I got to keep everything close. So, I dated and hung around people that weren't necessarily in the program. And for me, I was vigorously living through them. So if they got drunk, then, I didn't drink, but I would vigorously live through them, and it would come to a point where I got to go home, right? Or if, if they were using or whatever they were doing. So I was, vicariously living through their addiction, but not using, but, getting those same feelings like I would be using. And, it'd take me on a tailspin. And I did that for a few years, just really trying to fit in, right? I was really just trying to fit in, somewhere around 3 or 3.5 years, all of a sudden I told myself that, recovery and the rooms AA and NA became boring. And for me, that's a bad place to be, right? Like, that's a bad stinking place to be, So when I talk about people, places, and things, that's one thing that's a bad thing to say to yourself is NA and AA is boring. Now, you can get recovery every other which way, which, I taught myself and was a trailblazer and created my own recovery. But at the end of the day, when I told myself that, recovery was getting boring, that allowed all this other stuff that, going to casinos. So I started going to the casino, and I started getting addicted to the casino, and it was just, every time I put, 150, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600 bucks on number 29, and I'd watch the ball go around, zing, zing, come on, hit, no. It was just like getting drunk and high. And I actually got addicted to the casino, and it almost, it broke me. It made me broke.
Literally.
Literally made me broke. And had to go to credit counseling to get that situation under control back in 2011 and 12. So from there, then I turned to just, being a womanizer. And then from there, I turned to working too many hours. And then from there, I worked to doing too many things. And then so for me, I got to be really careful, because, people, places, and things, I understand people. People are people. I can't change people. I can only change myself. So it's truly up to me if I want to inject myself into a situation or not inject myself into a situation. 9 times out of 10, I shouldn't inject myself into the situation, because I shouldn't be in that situation. So that takes care of the people. The things are always going to happen. Things are always going to happen in your life.
They're always going to pop up, right? You can't, things are everywhere. Things are everywhere. And it's very important that you recognize that, and it's very important that you're okay with that. You can only do what you can do for you.
That's it, right? Your recovery has to come first. So you got to take care of you in order to be with people, places, and things. So, things could mean anything. You could be walking down a back alley, see a pop can, and that could trigger you. Yeah. You could be walking down a back alley, you could see a needle, that could trigger you. You could be walking down a back alley and somebody passed out, that could trigger you. You could see somebody breaking into a house from your car, that could trigger you. You could see so many different things that could trigger you, and if you weren't on top of your recovery, you would never understand what those things are,
and
right?
being honest about your recovery. Like I work at our local detox center here, and we have the managed alcohol program. And I had to train in that program, and I thought I was able to do it, and I was okay. And I said, yeah, and I was gung-ho, and I didn't want to, tell my employer that I couldn't do it. And when I poured that wine, I was very triggered.
So why didn't you want to tell your employee that you didn't
employer?
want to? Yeah, employer. Sorry.
I didn't want to tell him because then I thought I would lose my job.
Right. So did you start feeling all these things of like guilt and shame and remorse?
I did, yeah.
And why am I an alcoholic and why am I an addict?
Yeah, I did, and I was able to tell Jay, you know, like that wine smelled pretty good, and it wasn't until I poured it that's when it happened for me. You know,
and she went downhill fast. Like I watched it. It was 3 weeks of, you know, she ended up talking about it, which got her through it, and then she realized. And to today, she says no to those shifts because she knows that those are a trigger for her. Which is huge because most people wouldn't recognize that, or most people wouldn't.
I didn't want to
admit that.
I didn't want to admit that I couldn't do it,
right.
And that was it. But by admitting I couldn't do it, I was able to move forward in my recovery.
So it showed you had more strength when actually you thought you were weak, but you actually had more strength because you took care of your recovery.
I did.
Interesting. So now let's move on to places. So we're actually right now we're sitting at an amazing place, the boat launch here in Kuwait, in Ontario. This actually is a place where my family used to always go. My grandfather used to come down here all the time. We used to, you know, launch boats. So, you know, when it comes to places in your recovery and when you're getting clean and sober, you know, I'm probably not going to want to sit inside a crack shack. That's probably not what I'm going to want to do. I'm probably not going to want to sit in a place where people are shooting up. That's probably not what I want to do. I have gone to bars. It wasn't the same as what it used to be. It was a totally different thing because I was clean and sober, and seeing all those people that were having a good time in their minds really didn't, you know, didn't look fun to me. But you know, so when you think about places, you know, you're probably not going to want to go to, you know, places where there's trauma. You're probably not going to want to go to places where, you know, possibly you've been hurt, and you're probably not going to want to go to places, you know, unless you want to come to peace with these situations. And I have done this. I did a speaking engagement in Barrie, Ontario, and that's where I tried committing suicide back-to-back times in 2005. And I actually went back to the street and back to the house where I tried taking my own life, and it brought up a lot of emotions, but I wanted to do it for me so I could just put it at rest. I just wanted to do it for me, and I was at a place in my recovery where I would have never done that in the first, you know, first year or 2 years or 3 years for that matter. But, you know, another big one for me was moving to Kenora, Ontario. You know, I moved away from Kenora, Ontario to get clean and sober in Ottawa. I never thought in my wildest dreams I would be back living in Kenora, Ontario, have my own business in Kenora, Ontario, have a kid in Kenora, Ontario, meet Bocage here in Kenora, Ontario, which now, you know, we've created the recovery couple. So I was scared to come back to my hometown for the simple fact that I've done everything here. People judged me, people thought of me, all this other stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so I had all this guilt and this shame and this thing in the back of my mind is to, if I ever was to fail, you know, all those people that don't believe in me would be able to rub it in my face and go, "We told you so," and, you know, all these false beliefs, right? So you know, here's the deal. Kenora wasn't the problem. Jay Barnard was the problem. Sudbury, Ontario wasn't the problem. Jay Barnard was the problem. Barrie, Ontario wasn't the problem. Jay Barnard was the problem. Hamilton, Ontario wasn't the problem. Jay Barnard was the problem. So when Jay Barnard admits to himself that he's the problem, Jay Barnard can live anywhere because he doesn't blame people, places, and things on the way his life is because he creates his own life. So for me, you know, I've been back in Kenora, Ontario now for 6 years. I've lived here for 6 years and I've done very well here. And I'm very grateful and happy that I did decide to move back home because, you know, home is where the heart is. That's what they always say, right? So when it comes to places, what is your thought on places?
You know, like you, I had to admit I was the problem, and not everywhere else was the problem. So my hope, or what, you know, I haven't left Kenora. You know, I mean, I did when I went to go to treatment and then went to a second, like a recovery home, but I came back. And it took a long time for me to be okay with that. I was planned on moving actually before I met Jay. Once my youngest daughter was done high school, I was out of here.
Well, here's a question for you. So the house you live in today,
yep,
you used in that.
I sure did, yeah.
So you went and got clean and sober.
Yeah.
away from Kenora. Then you came back. You almost lost your house because of your active addiction.
Yeah.
So you went to get clean and sober, came back, and you lived in your house. So were there any triggers or things or anything like that inside your house?
Oh, yes.
Because obviously, you know, that's where you are.
Yeah, and I'm still there. It took a while. Like, there was a lot of you know, and not by me by any means, but there was a lot of used needles in my home, in my walls, that I had to get out. There was you know, booze bottles everywhere. There was like holes all over the house, in the walls. So it was pretty run down. I'm not gonna lie, my house was pretty run down when I came back. You know, and it took a lot for me, and I had a really good friend come and help me clean out my house. We took everything out of it. It was trashed, you know, but with over time and healing, and it was a healing process for me too, to be able to patch up all the holes in my wall and repaint it and make it a home again. And it took a really long time for me to be able to do that. But I mean, today I'm very proud of my home, and I love my home, and it's safe, and it's happy, and it's a healthy home. So
and it's in the hood. I actually totally like it. I like it. It's in the hood. So that's interesting, because, you know, some people wouldn't just go to treatment and then go back and live in the home that they had used in, right? Like I would just move. Me personally, I just kept moving in active addiction, and I, you know, like I said, I got out of Kenora, Ontario to get clean and sober. I went to Ottawa. I went as far as possible I could get away from here. You know, because I personally thought in my mind that it was Kenora's problem that I am the way I am. So until I heard my head pop out of my you know, that is when I realized I was the problem. You know, think to yourself about the people, places, and things. The people, places, and things in your life. Are the people that are in your life, are they supporting you in your recovery? Are they backing you? Are they there for you? Are they, you know, all those things, you know, and sometimes in life and in our recovery, because your recovery has to come first, sometimes you have to get, you know, some people have to, you know, not be in your life because of the triggers that they bring to your life, and because of the safeguarding of your recovery, because, you know, recovery is number one. You know, places triggering you. You know, the places that you go, the places that you stay, the places that you frequent, the places that, you know, those things you got to look at, you know. And then things, what are you doing for your mental health to keep you positive and moving forward in a positive direction? Are you doing positive things, or are you constantly always beating yourself up like I used to? Are you constantly telling yourself you're not worth it? Are you constantly, you know, doing things like going to the casino and losing all your money and making yourself feel broke? Are you hanging around and doing things that you shouldn't be doing just to get that, you know, vicariously feeling of what addiction used to feel like, when really at the end of the day that's just called insanity, repeating the same mistake over and over again and repeating different results, getting different results, but always getting the same result, which is insanity, right? So we're down here at the boat launch. Are you gonna come around with me? You can? We're down here at the Keewatin boat launch, which is the Winnipeg River back there. This is a place that was really close to my grandfather, and this was a place. So, you know, people, places, and things. My grandfather came here, that's the person. The place is the boat launch. The thing was the time I had with my grandfather. So for me, coming to this boat launch is a really positive place for me to come, and there's serenity here, and there's, you know, I feel love, and I feel like he's with me, and all of those things, right? So there's always these positive things, and this boat launch is one of them. So I'd rather live in a tent on a beach in love with Ashley Bocage than in a mansion alone. You're never,
ever
alone.
Ever
Alone. Bye-bye.
Bye.